just, I just, I just speak my peace, keep my peace.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to the Speak Up Peace podcast. As always, I'm your gracious host, Greg Lacey. Like we always do about this time, I hope this episode reaches you all the good health, good wealth, and taking care of yourself and your loved ones, as we know how important that is. Last week, I said form follows function to really just give you all my thought process and my intentions with the last episode. It was me shooting from the hip, giving you all raw emotions, raw feelings on the subject matter that I was dealing with. One thing I found that was ironic was speaking about all the things I was speaking about and giving you all that what to watch at the end of the episode, and the what to watch was Creed. And one of the subject matters covered in Creed 3 was on a very minuscule level was bullying, but also the consequences of certain actions that we have. So I felt like that tied together and blended very well with the episode. Even outside of that, I feel like the response and the feedback I've gotten from the last episode was very positive. So I feel like although that a lot of times I shoot from the hip, I'm not too proud of it because I be all over the place. But from the feedback I got from you all, lets me know that the episode came together very beautifully, concisely, and just the transitions and everything married each other well. So I appreciate y'all. I appreciate feedback as always. So if you are a fan of the Speak My Peace podcast, please make sure you are leaving feedback. Please make sure you are rating, liking, commenting, subscribing, whatever the case may be, because that is greatly appreciated. With that being said, I didn't want last episode to be painted as me making an excuse for some of my actions, because I'm human. Although certain things may have caused me to act a certain way, I have a subconscious, and so when I'm doing things, the same way that I'm able to carry out actions is the same way that I'm able to care about the consequences of my actions, or just the remnants of my actions, which drew me to record last episodes. But I never wanted to use or frame last episode as me using my home structure as an excuse for the reason why I was acting the way that I was acting. What I really wanted to use the episode as really just me putting a microscope on my childhood and other childhoods as well, and how certain actions and certain experiences in our childhood affect us internally, and how it affects people and who we interact with out of home. Like going through traumatic experiences, like not knowing a parent refusing to have anything to do with you growing up. Unfortunately, seeing a parent pass or having a parent pass, growing up in a dual family household and seeing a toxic relationship and how that affects you. Growing up in a single parent household and seeing how that affects you. Growing up in a household to where a parent has been taken away and, in my case, incarcerated for X amount of years, and seeing how that affects you. What I really wanted to do with last episode was put the microscope on just the reactions to all those certain things. And I think that one thing that I didn't miss, but one thing I really didn't ever emphasize enough, was the lack of guidance. When you don't have the guidance, a lot of times, and I said this before, we roam out here aimlessly. And so we don't know how to deal with things. We don't know how to interact with people. We're not fully aware of our actions and the consequences of those actions. And so when you don't have that guidance, you really miss out on the weight of our actions. And I think that we see that a lot of times in these homes where you're missing that guidance. And so that's why I really wanted to put the microscope on, is just seeing the adverse actions or adverse reactions of children missing that guidance. And now we're going out here and we're seeking for attention, or we're causing harm or inflicting harm on other people because we don't know how to express ourselves. We don't know how to express ourselves. When you grow up in these type of environments where it's not okay to express yourself, you're not taught how to express yourself. You're not taught how to deal with emotions. You're not taught how to really speak about these things, or you're not taught tools to cope with negative emotions. You get things like I expressed in the previous episode. Another reason why I recorded the last episode is I really just want to put a lens on just the importance of having an open dialogue. I think that when you have an open dialogue with your child or your children, it allows them to be more expressive, allows them to know how to deal with negative emotion, it allows them to know how to deal with happy emotion. It allows them to know how to interact with people outside of your household. It allows them to understand that you can't just go around unknowingly, treating people wrong or causing harm amongst people, inflicting harm amongst people. I think that when you have this open dialogue and you stress the importance of speaking about how you're feeling and speaking about what you're going through, it allows for us as children to know that, there's other ways to express ourselves other than 2 words. I'm good, I'm okay, I'm all right, wherever the case may be. Me at the big age that I'm in, I'm still a victim of that a lot of times, to where I revert back to those 2-word responses rather than thoroughly expressing myself. And I think that when we move to a place of where we are better at expressing ourselves as young men and young women and children, we allow for those interactions with people that we deal with as we grow older to be more positive. We allow for more awareness in our lives because we are very open of what we're dealing with. We are very open about what we're proud of, and we're very open about how things affect us. And so when you have that dialogue, allows just for a better atmosphere altogether. And so that's really what I wanted to stress, is that, I spoke about the importance of having positive impact on lives. If you don't know how to have a positive impact on someone's life, then it kind of like it kind of prohibits you from having a positive impact, because no one in your home is teaching you to be a good person. No one in your home is teaching you to speak up. No one at home is teaching you how to have an open dialogue with someone. And so when you have these tools implemented in your life, somebody's providing you with that guidance, it causes such a positive effect on your life and your children's life and people beyond you to go, because of you're well equipped with dealing with other people. Last episode I also said one thing that I want to recant about me reaching the age that I reached being bittersweet because of all the things that I was speaking about. Me reaching the age that I am at now is not bittersweet. And I don't mean that in the sense of that I don't regret or feel bad about the things that I spoke about in the previous episode about me being younger. What I mean by it's not bittersweet is that I had to look at it from another lens. Yes, those things are unfortunate, the things that I dealt with, as well as the things that I caused amongst other people. But the beauty in life is that if you are here long enough and you mature, and if you are able to become more aware of your actions, that allows for growth. It allows you to look back and reflect and say, okay, I used to be that person, but I am not this person. And I think that's why I have to recant my statement about it being bittersweet, because it's not bittersweet. I am grateful that I am not the person I was yesterday, today. I'm grateful that tomorrow, I'm not going to be the person I was today. And I'm definitely grateful that I'm not today who I was a decade ago or a decade before that, because I was able to be here long enough to see that growth. Lives will get cut short every single day. And it is a blessing that my life was not cut short. It is a blessing my life has flourished enough for me to mature. My life has flourished enough for me to look back and improve on the person that I have been. So I don't want to say that I'm not regretful, because I am. I'm remorseful for those actions that I spoke about, but I'm not fully regretful, because when I became fully regretful, it kind of wallowed me into this deep feeling of pain and guilt, and I don't want that to succumb me. I don't want to be wallowed into that darkness of feeling like I can't be a better version of myself because I did this in the past. I don't want my past to haunt me too much. I want to be aware of my past, and I want to be aware of my actions, but I also want to improve on my actions. And I think that is the beauty in the things that I spoke about, is that understanding that I am not who I used to be, and I'm going to continue to thrive to be a better person. Because, as I said, I had to continue to make this positive impact for the people who I am here, the people who I do interact with every day, the people who I do love, and the people who do care about me. That is what the important aspect of life and growth is just bettering ourselves. And I missed that in speaking about the things that I spoke about last week, because I was so deep in my thought about feeling bad for the things that I've done in my past, which I am wholeheartedly remorseful about, but that doesn't consume me because I know that that's not who I am. So this is beauty. I'm grateful that I'm here to celebrate my life. I'm grateful that I was able to celebrate my life, my friends and my family and the closest people around me, because that's what's important. Besides, man, grudges is holding grudges. Well, I don't want to term this as holding a grudge because I'm not good with grudges. Like if I have a falling out with somebody, and whether I done them wrong or they done me wrong, if I'm doing somebody wrong intentionally, there's something behind it. Like it's a reaction to something. But if somebody done me wrong, there's just like, there's no room to repair that. It's really how I treat it is because I can't allow certain things to consume my mind too much. One thing about me is that as I've grown older, I've done a very good job of not allowing things to consume me. Whether that's social media, whether that's things of leisure, whether that's playing games, whether that's, I can't think of anything else. But that's really the two things that I feel like, or even alcohol. I spoke about me being sober. Those are the three things that I feel like I spend a lot of time with. And those are three things I feel like that can negatively affect me. One, with video games, although I love playing video games, it takes away too much of my time. Like I can get there, I can sit there and I can play for 5 hours throughout a day and not do anything productive but play a video game. And so I had to stop letting that consume me. Alcohol, I already spoke about, the negative effects of alcohol, and it once consumed me, and once I got control of that, it never consumed me again, and it won't ever consume me again. Same thing with bad thoughts. I don't let bad thoughts consume me because I understand how that can affect my mind, and I just don't want to live in that space to where I'm constantly in a dark space and I'm thinking about either bad things or bad things are entering my temple. And so the reason why I say I'm not good with grudges is because once somebody does it wrong, that person just doesn't exist in my life. It's not, room to come back from that. It's not room to repair that. It's just you did what you did and you live with that, but it's not for me to live with because I'm not allowing that to consume me. I'm not going to sit here and allow myself to go crazy and think about, why did you do this to me? What have I done to deserve this? Because 9 times out of 10, I didn't do anything to deserve it. And it was more of what that person is dealing with internally. So that person has to live with that. And I'm going to continue to live my life and make amends for the things that I feel like I have done wrong to other people. And whatever they did, that's with them. That's for them to correct. And it's not really up to me. Another thing that's bad with grudges is I just doing wrong by people that I care about or have cared about. That's one thing that consumes me. I don't sit here and go crazy and think like, oh, I did this person bad and I have to make things right. But thoughts pass in my head. Again, I have a subconscious. I'm a human being. As I said in a previous episode, genuinely, I'm a good person. And because I believe that and because I know that to be true, if I unintentionally do wrong by somebody or I do make a mistake out of emotions, those things consume me because it's like, okay, I have to make this right. Not for the sense of we have to repair a relationship, but because I have to be aware of the fact that I didn't intentionally mean to do this. Also being the fact that I allowed my emotion to consume me in making certain actions. And we're humans, a lot of times that happens to where we have emotional reactions to things. We have blow-ups, we have arguments, whatever the case may be, and these things happen. And so I'm not perfect, and that's really what the main point of that is just realizing I'm not perfect. But the reason why I'm not good with doing people wrong that I have cared about or care about is because those things really do consume me. Not to the point that it drives me crazy, but to the point that it lives in my head. And I hate anything having real estate in my head that I don't want to have real estate in my head. Told you all I deal with anxiety. So part of my anxiety is I have a million things already going on in my head personally already. So for me to allow something that affects or something that deals with someone else that I don't have any control over, it's just like I can't afford that rental space in my mind. And so that's another reason why that causes a big effect on me. Episode 120, I spoke about making things right with someone who I was in a relationship with at a younger age, and how my decision to end that relationship and how I carried out ending that relationship was childish. That is a prime example of, the importance of making things right and understanding that, okay, I'm removed from the situation. I have time to separate and realize my wrongdoing and my actions. What really was a driving force in me understanding and that awareness that came from me realizing I had done wrong? It was a dream. I don't know if it was a dream or it was a nightmare, but I'm gonna call it a dream because it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't horrific, but it was kind of like a wake-up call. So years had gone by. I had not spoken to this person, had not talked to this person, had not seen this person. May have been like maybe 3 or 4 years. No interaction with this person. Not a thought. Well, obviously some sort of thought, because I was still living with the consequences of my actions. And those consequences being, I had made an emotional decision. And while I was living with those emotions at that time, I was able to live with that decision because a lot of that emotion was anger. A lot of that emotion was immaturity. And so that allowed me to believe or create this false conception, this false narrative of, I'm okay. I can make this decision. I can go on about my life because I didn't want that anyways, which in reality, that wasn't the case. And so years had gone by. We had not ran into each other, not spoken to each other, no glimpse of each other or anything like that. And one night, I randomly had a dream about this person's funeral. And the reason why I said that was a wake-up call because that was really the driving force in me wanting to make things right. The dream in detail, I don't remember it thoroughly, but I never saw the person in the dream. But I knew it was a person's funeral, which is weird. But you know how, we have dreams and we have these subconscious thoughts, or we have these subconscious ideas or subconscious details of knowing what's going on and being aware of the situation. So the dream was really just me walking into a church, to a funeral, and seeing this person's mother, seeing his parents' sister, and understanding where I was at. It was this person's funeral. And once that dream happened, I realized that I can't go on and live my life without making things right. And it wasn't making things right to repair a relationship, but it was just admitting my faults and coming forth with admitting what drove me to carry out what I carried out. Like, when you care about somebody and you have that subconscious thought of like, I'm going to run to this person, and while I don't harbor any negative thoughts or feelings towards them, they may harbor negative thoughts or feelings towards me. And it's difficult to live with that reality. Now, this person may not even be thinking about you. This person may not harbor any thoughts, but because there's no line of communication, because there was no reconciliation, those type of thoughts live in the back of your mind. So that really what it was for me was like, damn, okay, I understand that I have to make things right. And this dream is that sign that I have to make things right, because I don't want to live my life knowing that I never made those things right. And before it's too late, I have to live with that. Another reason why I believe this dream was very impactful is because this was also around the time that my brother had passed. And so it was a lot of transitions, there was a lot of things in my life that I was dealing with that I felt like, okay, I didn't understand in time what the dream meant, but as time went by, I understood what the dream meant. I never had a dream of a funeral ever in my life. I had a dream of people who have passed in my life coming back and visit me and having a type of experience with them, but I've never had a dream of someone's actual funeral. So time goes by, I realized that, okay, I have to make things right, but I was in a relationship. And so that created this wall of not being able to reconcile things. For one, we had not had any form of communication for the past 3 or 4 years. At this point, probably 4 or 5 years. For two, I was in a relationship. And so it was hard for me to even think about reaching out and doing that, because what type of rift it would have caused in that relationship I was in. So it was just a really weird space to be in, and I couldn't make up the perfect scenario in my head to make those amends. But because I was now aware of why that dream had came to me and what I had to do to reconcile things, it lived rent-free in my head. So I finally got a relationship, and honestly, and you'll see this in the case and many times with me because I'm a very stubborn person, I'm not going to be the person to reach out to anyone first. I don't know why. I know I've been in therapy for 2 years now. I'm working on a lot of things. My stubbornness is one thing that I have not got rid of. So time went by. I got out of a relationship, and this person contacts me. And it was really like I don't want to say a light bulb flicker in my head, but it was really just like one of those awe moments. I was really in awe. I was like, damn, I've been waiting for this opportunity to do this. Now I have the opportunity to do this. And so, we had the conversation, came clean, and just had a very long conversation, and I admitted my faults in those things. And that caused such a relief in my life, and it took so much weight off of my shoulders because I had been carrying this feeling of regret, this feeling of remorse of not knowing where I stood with someone who I talked to and seen every single day of my life for X amount of years. And so once we made things right, it was very important for one to do that so that I can get rid of that, so that I can shed it, but also admit my faults and be more aware so that I can grow. And once I was able to do that, the reason why it was like a weight off my shoulder, because like now we're probably never going to run into each other. We're probably never going to see each other out. But I understand that if we do, it's not hate. I don't have to worry about whether this person is going to spew some hateful message towards me. This person is going to have this person is going to have an emotional reaction to seeing me or anything like that. And so now I can live and have that thing not be in my head, if that makes any sense. And so once we reconciled and made those things well, I started to understand the importance of that. I started to understand that weight and that burden I was carrying around for so long was because I didn't make it right by something I had did wrong by. And not all reconciliations play out that well. Like, I'm grateful that we are in a space now to where if I see her out in public, it's a hello and it's a goodbye, and it's not hateful things, because it shouldn't be that way. And I know a lot of people, they're whether in a relationship or friendships, if things fall out, they spew hate towards that person, they spew hate towards or whatever the case may be. That's just not how I was raised. Going back into my family structure and my home structure, like, by the time that, my father went away, my parents were already broken up, but obviously they had to co-parent. At that point, they have 3 children together, so they still have to have some form of communication. While back then, it wasn't healthy, and even the years following that, it wasn't healthy. My parents are in a space now to where they see each other. It's love. It's not you hate, or one person spewing hate towards the other person, one person saying negative things about the other person. It's they understand that, they are not who they are 30 years ago. They understand they are not who they were 20 years ago, and they're able to bask in their growth as individuals and as co-parents, because that's what's important for the kids to see. Like, there's no awkwardness. Even beyond that, before they even got to that point, like, if you know me personally, you know my family, like, my mother is really well engulfed in my paternal family. Like, my paternal family accepts my mother as one of theirs. And so that allowed for even greater atmosphere for me and my siblings, because it's like, if that was the case to where my family took on the same stance my father and my mother may have had towards each other, and that hate towards each other, my upbringing would have been pretty weird. I'm be quite honest, because I grew up in the vicinity of a lot of my family. And so if, what my mother and my father were dealing with personally has spilled over into the family, my upbringing would have been dramatically different. And so I'm grateful for that. But getting back into the importance and the reason why I want to make right by that is because this is my reality. This is what I see. This is my parents. They're able to see each other and speak to each other and not be any hate towards that. And so that's the norm for me. And that's not even just the only case in my family. There's other cases in my family to where people have broken up, have splitting up, and the person who was not in the family still accepted by my family and still, intermingling within my family. That's just my norm. Speaking about the structure and the things that I see and the things that affected me as a child, that's normal for me. And so I think that had I not made right by that situation, it would have continued to harbor some type of not dark thoughts, but it would have continued to harbor some type of heavy weight on my life because I never made right by that. So I'm grateful that I was able to do that. Even then, like, the reconciliations is important because the awareness that it brings to you and the open communication it has and being about expressing your feelings. Also, around that same time, I had a falling out with one of my closest friends. It wasn't that deep of a falling out to where, like, we were saying things disrespectful or caused harm or inflict harm upon one another. It was really just a miscommunication. Going back into me being stubborn, I'm going to continue to harp on this. I'm a stubborn person. I'm a very stubborn person. But this was one of the days to where I just didn't want to be bothered by people. And when I get into that mode, one bad comment, one bad joke, one bad action will set me off. And I will address you for it, or I just will not speak to you. You can ask both of my parents. They've been through it to where they said something or did something that I did not like, and I did not speak for them for X amount of time. That's just who I am. Again, I'm working on myself. Y'all forgive me. But going back to the example of my friend, you know, we fell out because I had a very bad day. I was pissed off about something, and he joked about something, and I didn't like the joke. And I said what I had to say. He said what he had to say, and then we never spoke to each other for 2 years. 2 years had gone by. I realized I was wrong in it, but again, I'm stubborn, and so I never admitted that fault, and I wasn't gonna be the person to reach out. But those years had gone by, and my friend randomly reached out to me, and we made amends. I came forth with what I was dealing with and what caused me to react the way that I reacted. And, you know, when we spoke about that, and since then, we've been as close as we was, or even closer than we were before then, because we are grown-ups now. Back then, we were teenagers or young adults. And so that allowed for even greater space or even greater bond between us because we were able to grow individually and allow for our relationship together to become stronger. And that's the importance in those reconciliations is being able to see certain things through, being able to, for one, be aware of your actions, but also being able to express yourself. When you have that, we have that place to where you're able to express yourself healthily. Healthily is a word. We're able to express yourself healthily. It allows for that open form of communication to where now I know I can open up to this person and it not be used against me. Now I know I can open up to this person and not feel like, you know, my expressions or my feelings are falling on those deaf ears. And that it creates a healthier atmosphere to where now, you know, we can express, you know, I did something that don't even have anything to do with him, but something may affect me today. I know this is a friend I can talk to because we have that form of communication where I can open up to him about my feelings and my friend can open up to me about his feelings, different things like that. That is the most important thing. I know I closed our last episode with the Jackie Robinson quote, but I just really want to remind y'all of that a life is not important except the impact it has on other lives. That's a powerful saying. That's a powerful quote. And that's something that we should all live by. If you done wrong by somebody that you cared for at one point in your life or still care for in your life, do the best you can to make amends with that person, because you don't want time to pass by and you feel like something traumatic or tragic happens and it was too late, and then you now have to carry that around with you for the rest of your life. It's important that we be aware of our actions. It's important that we express what caused us to react to certain things. It's important for us to express why we acted a certain way. It's important for us to express things that may have happened years ago that may have caused you to react a certain way. You just never know what those open forms or open lines of communication can do in a relationship, whether that's romantic, friendship, or kinship. These things are important. So as we get out of here, I want to reiterate, be good to people, do good by people. And if you are intentionally out here doing wrong by people, then you should seek professional help. I'm not saying this jokingly. I'm saying this as serious as possible, because I couldn't imagine doing wrong by people intentionally and just living my life and being able to sleep at night and not having to deal with any of that. Like, if you're able to do that, you should probably seek professional help, because that's not okay. As we get out of here, what to watch for this week, we can go with Unprisoned on Hulu. Once again, My What to Watch for this week is Unprisoned on Hulu. That's the Speak My Piece podcast for this week. I'm out.